Good evening and welcome to the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers All Candidates Virtual Town Hall, facilitated by the Chair of the OSPE Nominations Committee, Gkalimani. Before we begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to cover a few housekeeping items. All attendees will remain muted for the duration of this session. There are 3 ways to ask the candidates a question. First was by submitting your question along with your registration prior to the session. During the town hall, if time permits, there will be 2 options to ask a question live. First is through our chat function. Please submit your question via text in the question box. This will be sent to staff monitoring tonight's event and will be read aloud. We will try to get as many of the live questions as possible. If you would prefer to ask your question verbally using your own microphone, please select the Raise Your Hand button. Staff will introduce you and unmute your microphone. Individuals will be allowed to ask 1 question at a time. To change your personal view of the webinar, you may use the gray bar to adjust the presentation to video view. Without further delay, it's my pleasure to now introduce the Chair of the OSPE Nominations Committee, Gkalimani.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to OSPE's first All Candidates Town Hall. This is an opportunity for you, our members, to hear what this year's candidates' visions are for the association. OSPE's elections are structured to ensure a turnover of 1/3 of our board members each year, and therefore there are 4 open positions for a 3-year term. In addition, this year, for 2021, we have 1 more open position for a 1-year term. Tomorrow evening, you'll be hearing from the 7 candidates running for the 3-year term. But tonight, we are pleased to welcome the 3 candidates running for the 1-year term: Shane Guradal, Stephanie Hoko, and John Eric Rempillo. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, our 4th candidate, Javier Rico Piez, has had to withdraw from running in this year's election. So welcome, candidates, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to give back to your profession. Each of the candidates will be permitted up to 3 minutes for their opening remarks. I will then direct questions to the candidates, and each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to the question. Following the questions period, we will give each candidate up to 1 minute for their closing remarks. The order for the speakers this evening is alphabetical by their last name. Finally, I would like to point out that the views and opinions of the candidates do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of OSPE. So let's now begin with the opening remarks. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes to talk about why they want to serve the engineering profession, what are their values and background they will bring to the board, and why volunteering for OSPE is important for them. The first candidate for this evening is Shane. Hello, Shane.
To start off, why I want to serve the engineering profession, I felt there's a duty to advocate the core values of our engineering profession. OSPE values of leading, solving problems through collaboration, and being equitable and diverse and inclusive is the same values I use for my projects and other aspects in my life. I believe I can continue to serve the profession from my insight in working in different engineering-related fields in different countries, and I can contribute to an inclusive engineering community. I've been serving in executive committees in engineering chapters ever since I received my P.Eng. I started in Thompson, Manitoba. I was treasurer from 2016 until I moved to Sudbury, where I became the chapter treasurer, and currently I'm the chapter treasurer of the BEO Sudbury chapter. I hosted advocacy events, brought engineers and interns together to share experiences, gain career insights, and to discuss opportunities to give back to the profession. I've led and served the engineering community during those times. I've been part of forming partnerships with science and engineering related non-profit groups that are in line with OSPE's visions and values. And I'd like to engage and continue building those relationships for OSPE. I have volunteered in science camps, did presentations to promote and advocate the profession, and I led and I continue to lead cultural diverse teams to successfully complete projects in different engineering areas. The key factors that I have and the key core values I would like to continue to have in this profession is leadership, accountability, and advocacy for engineering. Engineering is important to me. Volunteering at OSPE is important as I can contribute by collaborating with professionals for creating a future where engineers are a civic resource to build the community, stimulate the economy, protect the environment, and lead society. Being part of something that is creating a greater Ontario, which we save. Thanks.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie, you're next.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for being here tonight. I'm passionate about engineering and committed to upholding the high standards of the profession. I've worked in heavy industry for 17 plus years in Hamilton, Ontario, and I have firsthand knowledge of the importance and relevance of engineers in industry and health and safety relating to the environment in all aspects of economic development. As an engineering manager, I've worked with students and with Canadian and internationally trained engineers, and I know that equity, diversity, and inclusion are key to the strength of our profession. And I support these positive initiatives that OSPE already has underway. I think this is the right direction, and I would consider it an honor to serve on the board, and it would be a meaningful way to give back to the profession. Research and innovation are also core policy directions for Ontario, and particularly for the Golden Horseshoe area, to help companies and cities grow in the near future economic recovery. Innovation is driven by engineers and requires partnership and collaboration. Over the last several years, collaboration has been the touchstone of my work in the digitalization program at ArcelorMittal Dofasco. It's partially funded by Canada's Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster, and several industry partners and research institutions have joined forces to collaborate on this project. Through that experience especially, this gives me a greater appreciation for consensus building and negotiation for positive outcomes for all. So I welcome this opportunity to serve on the board and bring those skills and that mindset to that work as well. So thank you for your attention tonight.
Thank you, Stephanie. John.
Hello, good evening to all the OSPE present BODs and staffs, to all professional engineers here in Canada, to my fellow associate members, to all student members, and my fellow immigrant engineers. Thank you for this opportunity. So I'm John Eric Rimpillo. So you can, but in our country, it's pronounced Rimpillo. But anyway, so yeah, I completed my engineering course way back in my country, the Philippines. So I graduated in a exclusive engineering school in our country. And completing this engineering profession, I finished electronics and communication engineering, and it brought me to a career as a broadcast engineer. So working in communication, working in broadcasting stations, radio and TV. And this profession brought me to different countries. From Philippines, I moved to United Arab Emirates. Then it moved me to Northwest Territory and here in Ontario. So I joined OSPE to expand my network, to expand my knowledge in the field of engineering, and to meet lots of engineers, professional students, immigrants, because we are here to help each other, to make our career grow, and at the same time contribute to our community and to our country, Canada. So if you are asking what can I contribute to the organization, I'm very passionate in participating to different activities. It may be cultural or professional. I've been officers and members of different cultural organizations. I've been a board of directors of Philippine Cultural Association of Filipinos in Yellowknife. And in professional, I've been a member of Central Canada's Broadcast Engineers and Technologists. I'm a senior member of Broadcast Engineers in the United States. And I
see that John has some network issues. John? Okay, I think. John, can you hear us? Okay, I will move to the questions, and when John's connection restores, then we will let him complete his introduction. Okay, because I don't see. Okay, I'll move to the questions. Thank you for the introduction. We have some pre-submitted questions, and after that, we will go to audience questions. So I will start with the question number 1. How do you believe OSPE can assist foreign trained engineering professionals who are feeling isolated? Shane, do you want to start?
Yes, thanks, Anna. OSPE can have a forum for isolated engineers to discuss their thoughts and concerns, a forum where they can talk to each other, and have a few moderators and volunteers of OSPE to guide those engineers that are feeling isolated, so they could understand. You could provide understanding in real time to them, and they'll know somebody is listening, so they would not feel as isolated, and they would feel they'll feel a passion towards OSPE and our engineering field.
Thank you, Shane. John, I see you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I think I was disconnected.
Okay, so we'll let you continue. We'll let you complete your introduction.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, guys. Yeah, sometimes really technical issues come out, right?
That's okay.
Am I back?
Yes.
Okay, I think the last parting words I can say, I think through OSPE, we can connect to the community. We can connect to our fellow engineers. We can connect to all professionals in the engineering industry or engineering field. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So we started with the first question until you connect back. So I will read the question again. The question is, how do you believe OSPE can assist foreign trained engineering professionals who are feeling isolated? So Shane replied to the question. We'll now move to Stephanie.
Thank you. I think Shane made a good point about there's definitely a personal aspect to that, and being heard is very important. I think there's a couple of other things regarding employment that OSPE could do. I know there are some great existing programs such as the MPP exam courses, but from my discussions with individuals that I've worked with, when they came to Canada, that outreach didn't exist, so they weren't aware of those programs. So I think there's an opportunity to do some outreach to newcomer organizations to make people aware of those good programs. And I think that there's also maybe some guidance about pathways into the workforce that OSPE could help with. I think there's some need to have Canadian credentials, or a perception that Canadian credentials are important, and potentially college versus a master's program could be something that OSPE could help them guide them into it, because I think that there is maybe a bias towards or away from master's programs, because now an individual is overqualified or is perceived to be overqualified for a position. So I think some clarity around that would be helpful in terms of connecting engineers and skilled professionals that we so desperately need in our society to the jobs that they can do. So that's what I would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Great. John.
Yep. I think I missed the question because I was disconnected. If you don't mind, if you can.
I can repeat, no problem.
Yeah, please, thank you.
How do you believe OSPE can assist foreign-trained engineering professionals who are feeling isolated?
Yeah, I think, I think being the OSPE itself, the Society of Professional Engineers, I think will play a big role for this gap to all professionals for engineering. So Canada is a very, very diverse country. We have lots of professional experts coming from different countries, going to this beautiful country. So I think through OSPE, we can, this is the venue for all professionals, for all engineers, for us to connect each other, to extend help to others who are newcomer to this country, how we can adapt to the standard of professionals here in the Canada, how we can help students to find the first job work they can start, and this can be a venue for us to share our expertise by extending trainings or being a mentor, just what OSPE doing right now, that we will be very helpful. To those who are engineers from different countries, me, I'm an engineer in my country, from the Philippines, how can I adapt? How can I improve myself to meet the standard of being an engineer in this country? So I think being an OSPE member, it's the venue for us, it's a place for us, and we can be together. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I'll move to the next question. What do you see as the biggest challenge engineers face today that OSPE should be addressing? Shane.
That's a good question. The world has evolved into being less personal and more interactive online, meaning there's more screen fatigue and a lot of time where engineers, don't want to be in front of the screen all the time. So, for OSPE that, is for volunteers, it's pretty hard for them to take time off their day or their free time to go in front of the screen and talk and network that way because of the current circumstances that we're on with COVID. There's no easy answer for it, but it's a concern for volunteer associations that we should look into. One idea was to contribute professional development hours and to attend events such as this and participate in and commenting on technical discussions and webinars would lead to bringing in more engineers to get their professional development hours and bring them more into conversation to grow their profession this way. That's kind of how I see it. Just screen time and fatigue is one of the biggest issues that we face right now.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I believe that diversity of the profession is something we can't ignore or look away from. It's a bit of a longer term issue, but it has to be addressed. And I think there's well-meaning programs about getting kids into science and technology, and that's a good way to lead into that. But I think there needs to be more discussion about the reasons why different demographics are leaving the profession and how we can keep them in the profession or encourage re-entry to the profession if that's what they desire. Because they've already self-identified and self-selected into that technical role, and so how can we keep them here? I think that's pretty important. It's skilled professionals are key to our economic recovery, and anything that OSPE can do to support that is what I think is the most important thing to consider right now.
Thank you. John?
Okay, yeah, so I think, what OSP is doing right now, I think we are on the right direction as we integrate all engineers. Because if you remember, a long time ago, engineers we have different fields, right? Then you are recognized of your expertise on your own field. But as days, as years, as technology converges, all profession or skills are integrated. You are a mechanical engineer, you are working on machine, but now it requires computers in designing. So I think with OSPE and providing continuous education to professionals, to students, to associate members of different fields or technology on different fields of engineering will help us to know what the civil engineer needs to know, what the mechanical engineer needs to know, what other field of engineering needs to know. So we are sharing our knowledge to others, and later on we can work together to put more development to this country.
Perfect, thank you. Our next question. Do you believe OSPE should expand into member seminars that address the technical and ethical professionalism of engineers? Shane, I'll start with you again.
I believe we should expand our member seminars to address the technical and ethical professionalism of engineers. Code of conduct refreshers are good for us as it refocuses its members. I mean, even if you do it biannual, our duty is to the community and to the public first and foremost, and having touchpoint refreshers for our members to realign the main goal of what we do is something that we should look into, and even advancing our knowledge from other professionals in areas that we didn't consider that we could apply in our work. So that's why I think we should expand and grow that technical and professionalism webinars, as we could learn a lot from other engineers and apply it to ourselves and to our communities.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I agree. I think my second thing from the last question would be keeping our skills relevant. And I think some of the things that we're already seeing coming out of the programming is quite good and headed in the right direction. What I'd like to see is somehow this come together with the PEAK program from the PEO and make that connection there, because it's now a mandatory requirement. And so if the offerings could support that program, I think that's a good way to go for all of the same reasons that you said as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
Yeah, I agree with fellow candidates about what they said. So just additional for me from me is that I think it's necessary for OSPE to expand not only on technical continuous education, but also maybe sharing the proper code of conduct, being a professional, being professional engineers. Because we are not just evaluated by our own skills, but also people. We gain trust from our people, from others, with the conduct and the character we're showing to them.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Our next question is, what do you feel are some of the gaps that need to be identified between PEO and OSPE? I'll start with Shane again.
Yeah, I knew it.
On the alphabetical order.
Yeah. The advocacy portion of the PEO is a known question as PEO has moved towards a firmer regulatory model. The chapters who does the volunteering and advocacy is now in a gray zone in some of its functions. That means there's a dual role in OSPE members and PEO chapter executives in those chapters. So they're doing double duty for the same job, almost. Therefore, one gap that they need to close is where does the funding come now? Would it be half OSPE or half PEO? Or as PEO does the regulatory portion and then OSPE does the advocacy portion. These are some of the areas I think need to be clarified within the next coming year.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I feel the same. I think that there is definitely still some confusion. Maybe it's very clear to OSPE and very clear to the PEO where they stand, but it is not as clear to the general profession. And I think that there are roles for both, and clarifying those roles would be helpful. I have volunteered to be as part of the PEO government liaison program, and even that feels a little bit, where's the line there, right? I think that's Shane's point as well. We have had no activity in our chapter since I volunteered, so I can't really speak to it, but I did want to mention that. And I think also that there is a role to connect with other professional organizations. So I would bet that a lot of the engineers here are also part of other technical organizations such as ASHRAE or AIST. And I think that there's an opportunity to connect and maybe collaborate with those organizations as well. I don't know within a formal framework, but that would be something I'd like to see as well.
Thanks, Stephanie. John?
Yeah, for me, just just a new member of OSPE, and I'm not a member of a PEO, so I can't say so much of what are the gaps that we have to look at. But I think with the opportunity that you have given me to be one of the candidates for OSPE, we have made the first step of filling out the gap. So me, I'm not a P.Eng, a professional engineer registered of Canada. I'm just a associate member and just a member of OSPE. And in the future, maybe given the opportunity to collaborate and work with the professional engineers. So it could be a good start for us.
Thank you, John. I'll move now to the next question, which is, what would you like to accomplish on the OSPE board? Shane.
Yeah, Stephanie made a good point there, and that's actually led right into this question. In 1 year, I would like to build 3 partnerships for OSPE for promoting inclusivity, diversity, and sustainability in engineering, using my contacts and resources to fulfill the OSPE's 2019 to 2022 strategic plan. And that is in line what Stephanie said before. How could we get OSPE out there more? How could we get that diversity and inclusivity in engineering by reaching out to those organizations and making a partnership with them, as I did previously. We would be able to define the strategic plan in more detail as my first year on the board.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie.
Yes, 1 year is not a long time to make changes, but I learned in my undergrad never to pursue anything that I didn't have 100% commitment for. So 1 year it is. I think I would like to support the excellent policy direction and work that's underway already. I think equity, diversity, and inclusion, the environment, these are key values for me, and exciting to see the work that's already underway. And so I would like to wholeheartedly support those, as well as the innovation work that you're doing as well.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
For me, I cannot promise too much, but the only thing I can say, I will do what the position requires from me. And the very first thing that I would like to work on is to expand the membership, to be an ambassador of OSPE to those newcomers to Canada, to those who are students, to those who are looking for a job, looking for a network. So I would like to introduce to them, there's a place, there's a venue for them to connect to professional engineers, to engineering students, that they can help them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I will move now to the last pre-submitted question, which is, do you have any links with PEO? For example, joint committees? Shane?
Yeah, as I discussed the background, I served on the executive committee as treasurer for EGM and PO party chapters that years I lived in since 2016. I'm also on the PO Sudbury chapter for the funding committee, where we do a lot of outreach to form those partnerships, and also I build a business plan for the PO Sudbury chapter. So that kind of gives us some insight to where we could build and grow currently from where we're at right now.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Currently, just the volunteering to be part of the GLP program. But again, as I said, there's been no activity since I joined.
John?
Me, no. I'm not a PEO member yet. Maybe in the future, looking forward to that.
Thank you, John. So we've finished the pre-submitted questions. Let's see if we have any questions submitted from the audience tonight. Dana?
Hi, Anna. Yes, we do have a few additional questions tonight.
Okay.
The first one is, should OSPE be advocating for engineers to have a fact-based voice at the political table, or for benefits to the profession?
Thank you, Dana. Shane, would you like to answer?
That's a really good question. OSPE should have a fact-based voice, because we should be dealing with things that we know, things that we could make tangible if it's leading towards a decision. I think by promoting that we are an organization that's based on facts and would reflect well with the public, and will reinforce our position, our engineering profession as a fact-based profession.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie, what do you think?
I agree that the evidence-based position is one of the things that I appreciate the most. The recent discussion on the government budget was quite good, because it went through everything in detail and offered those opinions. So in some way political, but it wouldn't have mattered who tabled the budget. It was about the discussion on the budget. And I think that focusing on the evidence-based approach, the fact-based approach, can only benefit the profession. So I don't know if the question was whether we should do one or the other, but I think doing the one only supports the other.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
For me, I think, it depends, because right here we're talking of two organizations of engineers, right? We have the PEO for the professional engineers. We have the OSPE that accepts those who are professional engineers, those who are not registered engineers, those who are students, or any a professional from different countries. I think it could maybe the organization, the society can talk about that in the future. But for now, I think let's think and talk about what can we contribute to our society, to our community, to the country. And if we think in the future that there should be a voice for engineers in the government, we can plan a bit.
Thank you, John. At this point, I would also like to remind to the audience that they can submit their questions on the chat. And Dana, do you have any more questions?
Yes, we have two more pre-submitted questions, and I also have a hand raised to ask verbally. So I'll go through the pre-submitted ones first. The next question is, what is the purpose of OSPE?
Shane.
OSPE purpose is to lead engineering in society, to form collaboration with industry, government, and peers in industry to build a sustainable engineering future, and also to advocate for engineering, to build that community, to drive innovation, and to develop a sustainable society for Ontario.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
What I've seen in practice is that OSPE looks to elevate the engineering profession in Ontario through these types of evidence-based reports, through the types of programming that's offered, through the partnerships that are out there. That's what I see in practice. So to elevate engineering as a profession and to advocate for its role in society because it's so important. That's what I see.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
Yeah, just like other organizations, so they have their own mission, they have their own vision, the organization. So as far as I've known, OSPE was formed for those who are in the engineering field to connect. So we have different fields of engineering. So OSP would be the first gate to those who are in the engineering field. So OSP accept memberships of professional engineers, foreign engineers, and students. So from there, those who are lucky enough and really deserving, they can be a professional engineer and join PEO. So OSPE could be our first step to PEO.
Thank you, John. Dana, can you read the next question?
Yes, absolutely. The next two questions have to do with each other, so I'm going to lump them together here. The first part is, what do you think the relationship of OSPE with PEO should be? And the second part is, what difference between PEO and OSPE?
Thank you, Dana. Shane, would you like to answer?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the first part, OSPE and PEO, although separate entities, both have their roles. OSPE is a more communal for building relationships, networks, developing innovation within groups, promoting inclusivity, engineering, and advocating for engineering in Ontario. PEO role is a regulatory role, is an enforcement role to regulate the profession and guide the profession to ensure that we follow the strict engineering principles that we live by and code of ethics that we stand for. The second, I think I can answer the second part with that answer. But do you mind repeating it?
Absolutely, you did address it. It was, what's the difference between PEO and OSPE?
Okay, yeah, I think, okay. So thanks.
You covered it. Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I think that I think the first part of the question was, what are the roles? So obviously PEO is there for regulatory purposes. They're there to protect the public, to make sure that engineers are held to a particular standard. It's not about managing risk, but it is about a legal framework and regulatory work, and you can't do the same kind of advocacy. So that regulatory framework is a very sort of long into the future view of the engineering profession, right? It's very hard to change an act, to change laws, whereas OSPE is a much more, what is the current issue of the day? How can we, it's hard to say. It's like a practical approach to what engineers are facing. You can get together, you can discuss these issues that are outside of that regulatory framework. And so that advocacy always has to be separate from the regulatory piece. And that's why you see a lot of exciting things coming out of OSPE, because there's so much to talk about. There's so much rich discussion about issues that can't be managed in that regulatory framework. So that's how I view them separately, I think similar to Shane. So yes, that's my answer.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
Okay. Okay. I will try to answer that question in my very best. Okay. So yeah, just by simple description of PEO, I think, yeah, so, you know, I think these two guys, yeah, they're talking about, it's more on regulatory thing. So because, you know, you cannot practice your profession as engineers. So if you don't have the license as engineer, and there are jobs, there are projects that we need a licensed engineer to do that. So OSPE, it's more on like social networking, continuous professional education for those who are professional engineers, for those who are students that wants to expand their knowledge on their own career or profession, and connecting to communities, implementing volunteering works. So I think that's the only thing for me.
Thank you, John. And Dana, do we have one more question or a raised hand?
Yep, we have a raised hand here from Mark Frayne. Mark, I have unmuted your microphone, so if you could unmute yourself and then you can ask your question.
Mark?
Mark, it still says that you are self-muted, so if you could try unmuting yourself. Okay, Mark, unfortunately, we're not able to hear you. If you could submit your questions in the question box, I'll be able to read that out loud. In the meantime, I do have another question here, so we'll move forward with that while we wait for Mark. This question says, how do you feel about the mission of OSPE regarding just having P.Eng membership or representing the profession, i.e. all iron rings in Ontario?
Okay. Shane, can you answer?
OSPE just having P.Eng members kind of limits some of that inclusivity that we're talking about, because we need to have the students and interns to contribute to our discussions and contribute to our society as well. So we can't just limit it to P.Engs for that particular area. For just can't be iron ring and be very selective on who we choose when we're trying to build a society where we want to include everyone who has a passion for the profession. That's kind of how I think about that section of it.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I agree. I don't think that OSPE is for P.Engs only. There's a whole framework for that. I think that even just saying we're looking for iron rings in Ontario leaves out a whole bunch of our colleagues as well. And I agree. It has to include whoever is interested in the profession.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
Yeah, I agree with them. So I think OSPE should not just limit the society for profession for P.Eng. I think OSPE should wide open the door to all engineering professionals from different fields, from different countries, those who are coming here because they want a better lives here, to those who are students who are taking their engineering program here, masteral. So for them to have a venue to connect to other engineering professional to start their engineering career in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So Dana, this was the last question.
We do have two questions here. Mark was able to submit them in the text box. So the first one is that salaries have not been keeping up with the cost of living adjustment. What would you suggest to address?
Shane?
That was a great question, Mark. they should have a benchmark on what the living wage is in the province, and what is what's the inflation that we've been seeing over the last while, and why. And the question would be, why weren't salaries being reflected yearly for the inflation? I think that would be a good starting point. Our next thing to do is benchmarking it to what other similar GDPs currently have with similar taxes and similar systems that we have in place, and to see what they're doing in order to make a better choice for how we select our salaries and our taxes and inflation. So that's a really good question. It is a lot of work that needs to go into that. But that's my thoughts on it, and I think there's a lot of work to be done on it, and it's just not simply just reflecting the salary on the change of inflation and the cost of living, but it might go a bit deeper than that, and then it might reflect deeper into our society.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I think beyond the evidence-based, I mean, I have two. I'm of two minds here. One, I think that there is always an opportunity to upskill and improve yourself to stay relevant, but I don't think that the impetus is solely on the individual for this. I think elevating the profession again, to show the contribution that engineers make to society. Engineers are additive to the economy. They bring value to the economy more than their salaries, and finding the right way to express that and show the value, I think, is one way that we could help in this context.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
Yeah, it's really very hard to answer that question, because the only can provide us what we are asking for, a high or increase in compensation, is the company we are working for, right? But as we work, and and they see our value, our own value in our respective company. For sure, the company that we are working for, they might compensate the hard work we are doing for them, and and maybe in the future, we engineers of this region, of this country, we can work together to upskills our members, our fellow engineers, and we can contribute more, and they might give us more value.
Thank you, John. Let's move to the next question.
This is the last one that I have submitted so far tonight, and it says, what is OSPE's role to identify and bring emerging disciplines under the PEO? Example, software engineers.
Shane?
Yeah, OSPE role could be to engage the requirements of that role, and how it could be incorporated into the PEO. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are software, that went to school for software engineering, and they don't have a P.Eng. They're not in any registered profession like the PEO or OSPE, because it's not a requirement for them in their roles. Regulating this section in software engineering specifically, to me, is something that is difficult based on the jobs and the requirements of the the employers. Most employers don't value that P.Eng for those roles. What OSPE can do is engage employers and people of that tech, the tech industry, to kind of show that they software engineers have a big engineering role in for how those platforms work, because those require a lot of forethought, because you can get people that could be addicted to something that you designed for software. I mean, look at us now. You don't know the impact of what you created. It's something that should be looked at in more detail. A committee could be developed to just kind of put some goals, some posts on what this software engineering would entail and how to regulate it, and what we could do to what could we design to kind of fit the framework that we have with PEO. So OSPE could be that tool that could help guide that regulation for PEO.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I think you're right. I think the demand has to be there. If there isn't a demand, either from the employers or the public or the software engineers, then there's no need to proceed. But if there is a demand, then you could use OSPE to bring those resources together and sort of put together a case that will satisfy the regulatory framework. So is there an impact to society? Absolutely. Software engineers have a huge impact to society. But there's also engineering professions that are sort of exempt from the legislation as well. So is the demand there? And if so, then OSPE could provide that gathering and putting together of that case if need be.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
So yeah, for software engineers, yeah, you are one of the career that has a high demand, high opportunities, because every company requires a software to operate, for the company to function, any department to function. So, but to be registered as P.Eng, just my personal. So I don't think you software engineer requires it, but if you want, I think that's what the society or the organization to plan to talk about it. But you have other venues to be certified, to be a certified software engineer, to be a certified professional design engineer, software design engineer. So yeah, so yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's great. You have a great opportunity, open opportunity to land on a good job.
Thank you, John. Dana, we have one more question.
Yes, we do. How do you think you can increase membership for OSPE?
Shane?
Is the last question? Just kidding. But the one way we can increase membership is forming partnerships with with groups that advocate for similar values that we stand for in OSPE. I think those you gotta start showing that you have interest in these groups, and these groups will also have interest in you, and you start promoting yourselves with them and supporting them, and they would eventually move towards being an OSPE member, and that's kind of how I would approach that
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I think the partnerships we've talked about are key. There's so many other, as we've mentioned, there's so many other organizations that we could reach out to. And I also think that the work that OSPE is doing now is very exciting. And so when I was in university, OSPE was founded, and I didn't quite understand the role that they would play. And now seeing what's coming out of the organization now, it's exciting. It's something I want to be a part of, and I fully understand why there's the two organizations and what the benefits are. And I think that outreach is the way to go, because the work stands for itself.
Yeah, I agree.
John?
Yeah, for me, I think the way that I can help in expanding, disseminating OSPE is that, I'm going to advocate about the organization first. If there's a need for us to go to school by school and provide some introduction or seminar to students in university or colleges, we can do it. And also just just other activities that OSPE is doing a job fair, doing a convention. So that's a very good venue for those who does not know OSPE. So we can provide them a short talk, what benefits they can get being a member, education, skills development, or other benefits. Personally, one of the benefits I'm getting from OSPE, I was able to save from my car and house insurance. So it's a big help for me economically. I was able to save some money for my family. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I believe we don't have any more questions from our members. Is that right, Dana?
You're correct.
Okay, but I do have one more question for the candidates before we close tonight. And this is, why are you proud to be an OSPE member? Shane?
I am an OSPE member because leading, collaborating with industries and peers, and advocating engineering in our communities drive innovation, growth, and discussion that develops a strong and sustainable society that we can be proud of.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
I'm an OSPE member because I'm proud to be an engineer, and OSPE is addressing issues that lift up our profession. Engineering is important for society, and it should reflect society. The evidence-based approach is one that I fully support, and it can only benefit society.
Thank you, Stephanie. And John?
I am proud to be a member of OSPE because I'm a proud engineer.
Thank you, John. So now I will give each one of you 1 minute for your closing remarks. Shane, we'll start from you.
I'd like to thank Stephanie and John Eric for participating tonight. I'd like to also thank you, Anna, and Valerie, and Dana for hosting. Thanks so much for that. I'd like to thank all in attendance and the board for the opportunity. Engineering is a lifelong profession. You may change careers, but the thought processes, the critical thinking, the collaboration you have with your peers, the duty of care you have for others and your community, and the decision making is what defines us. OSPE symbolizes these values and applies it into developing a sustainable future for our profession. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Shane. Stephanie?
Thank you, Shane and John Eric, for the discussion tonight. Thank you for Anna and Ospi for hosting. Thank you to everyone who is tuned in and who watches this later. I hope to represent you on the board. Impact is important to me, and the work that OSPE is doing to elevate engineering is by tackling real issues, and it's work that I would be proud to do. I would want to serve in that capacity. It's where I want to be. So thank you for your time tonight, and good luck.
Thank you, Stephanie. John?
Yeah, to Shane and Stephanie, thank you. And we made this far, able to meet you, even just virtually. And thank you for participating. And to our OSP staff, to the host of this open panel discussion, to those who are watching us, who participated in the question and answer portion. So I'm here, just like with my fellow candidates. We are here volunteering our time, our interest to serve you as a member, as a fellow member of OSPE, with coinciding with the vision and mission of the organization to help the engineering profession to be more productive, to be more contributing to the society and to the country. So I'm speaking for myself. So I'm here. So I'm an associate member of OSPE. I just tried, if I'm given the chance to be a candidate for a board of director position. So I've already answered some of my questions. I hope I satisfied your questions with my answer. So I just, I know all candidates are all qualified. It's just a matter of, who you like, who coincides with your principle, with your thoughts that can serve the organization much better.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So this now concludes this evening's discussion. I would like to thank all of our candidates. We appreciate you taking the time to support your profession. I would also like to thank the members for tuning in tonight and posing the questions to our candidates. And I hope this evening has been informative for you. This evening's town hall has been recorded and will be posted on our website by end of day tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, we also will hear from the candidates running for the 3-year term. And this session will also be recorded and uploaded to the OSPE website. All our members should have received their election packages via email on Monday, March 29th. For those that have provided a valid email. For those that they don't have provided an email address, you will be receiving your packages via regular mail. All voting for the OSPE board elections is done online and is super easy. Please note that voting for the 1-year term position will be done immediately after confirming your vote for the 3-year term positions. Please take the time to vote. It's very important. Polls are now open and will remain open until 11:59 p.m. on Friday, April the 16th. Finally, all election information can be found on OSPE's website, which is www.ospe.on.ca. Thank you all and have an excellent night.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.